Hello, everyone, and welcome back to Alex English Studio, the place where learning English becomes clear, practical, and enjoyable. I'm your host, Alex.
And I'm Maya. If you're someone who is learning English and sometimes feels motivated, but other times feels frustrated or stuck, then today's episode is exactly what you need.
That's right. Today, we're not just talking about grammar rules, vocabulary lists, or pronunciation practice. We're going to talk about something that many English learners ignore, the psychology behind language learning.
And that's actually very important because learning language is not just about studying. It's also about how your brain processes information, how your mind reacts to challenges, and how your emotions affect your learning.
Exactly. Many learners think they're bad at languages, but in reality, the problem is often psychological, not intellectual. In this episode, we'll explore why motivation goes up and down, why fear stops many learners from speaking, how the brain actually learns languages, and how your mindset can make learning English easier. But before we start, take a quick second to support the channel. Like this video, subscribe to Alex English Studio, and share this episode with someone who is learning English.
And don't forget to turn on the notification bell so you never miss our weekly English fluency episodes.
All right, Maya, let's start with something every learner experiences. Maya, let me ask you something honestly. Have you ever had a day where learning English felt exciting and easy, but another day where it felt very frustrating?
Oh yes, definitely. Some days I feel like I'm improving and understanding a lot, but on other days I feel like I'm not making progress at all.
That experience is completely normal. Language learning is not a straight line. It's more like a wave with ups and downs. Sometimes you feel confident, and sometimes you feel confused.
Why does that happen though?
Because when you learn a new language, your brain is doing something very complex. Think about everything your brain has to do. Understand completely new sounds, learn unfamiliar sentence structures, memorize thousands of new words, process information faster during conversations. That's a huge amount of mental work.
So it's like the brain is building a completely new communication system?
Exactly, and building that system takes time and patience. That's why learners should never feel discouraged when progress feels slow. Let's now talk about something fascinating, how the brain learns languages. Every time you learn a new word or sentence, your brain creates something called a neural connection.
Neural connection? That sounds very scientific.
It is scientific, but the idea is simple. Imagine your brain is like a forest. The first time you learn a new English word, it's like creating a tiny path in that forest. The path is very weak at the beginning.
And I guess that's why we forget words easily at first.
Exactly. But every time you hear, read, or use that word again, the path becomes stronger. Eventually, the path becomes a clear road in your brain. At that point, the word becomes automatic.
So repetition is really important.
Yes, repetition and exposure are the keys. That's why learners who listen to English daily, read English daily, and speak English regularly improve faster. Now let's talk about one of the biggest psychological barriers in language learning: fear. Specifically, fear of making mistakes. Maya, have you ever felt nervous speaking English because you might say something wrong?
Yes, all the time. Sometimes I know the sentence in my head, but I hesitate to say it because I'm afraid the grammar might be incorrect.
That fear is extremely common. Many learners believe they must speak perfectly before speaking at all. But here's the truth. Perfection is not the goal. Communication is the goal.
That's an important point.
Think about how children learn their first language. They make thousands of mistakes, but nobody tells them to stop speaking. Instead, those mistakes help them improve. The same thing happens when learning English. Mistakes are not failures. They are evidence that learning is happening. Another important psychological factor is motivation. Many learners believe successful people are always motivated, but the reality is different. Motivation naturally goes up and down.
So losing motivation sometimes is normal?
Absolutely. That's why the most successful learners don't depend only on motivation. They build habits. For example, instead of saying, I will practice English when I feel motivated, say, I will practice English for 20 minutes every day, even on days when motivation is low.
So habits create consistency.
Exactly. Consistency is far more powerful than occasional intense studying. Now let's talk about mindset. Many learners say things like, I'm not good at languages, or my brain can't learn English, but those beliefs become psychological barriers.
So our beliefs can limit our learning?
Yes, psychologists call this the growth mindset. A growth mindset means believing that abilities can improve with effort. For example, instead of saying, I can't speak English, say, I can't speak English yet. That small word, yet, changes your thinking. It tells your brain that improvement is possible. Confidence doesn't appear suddenly. It grows from small achievements. For example, learning 5 new words, understanding a short video, speaking one full sentence confidently. Each small success sends a signal to your brain, I'm improving.
So instead of focusing on fluency immediately, we should focus on small progress.
Exactly. Fluency is simply the result of hundreds of small improvements over time. Another powerful psychological factor is environment. If English is only something you study occasionally, your brain treats it like a school subject. But if English becomes part of your daily environment, your brain adapts much faster.
How can learners create that environment?
Simple ways include watching English videos, listening to podcasts, reading simple articles, speaking with friends, and following English creators online. When your brain hears English frequently, it becomes familiar and comfortable. Finally, let's talk about patience. Many learners expect fluency in a few months, but language learning is a long-term journey. Think of it like planting a tree. You plant the seed, water it regularly, and slowly it grows. You cannot force the tree to grow faster.
So patience is part of the process.
Yes, consistent practice over months and years creates incredible progress. Let's quickly summarize today's episode. The psychology behind language learning includes understanding how the brain builds connections, accepting mistakes as part of learning, building habits instead of relying on motivation, developing a growth mindset, celebrating small wins, creating an English environment, and being patient with progress.
This episode really changed how I think about learning English.
And that's exactly the goal. Because when your mindset changes, learning becomes much easier. If this episode helped you, like this video, subscribe to Alex English Studio, and share it with someone learning English.
And comment below, what psychological challenge do you face when learning English?
In our next episode, we'll talk about how long does it really take to learn English. Until then, keep practicing, keep speaking, and remember, your brain is designed to learn languages.